T.
N.
Oh. What is this for?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the episode of N.
Tino.
Look at that. Literally flexing his pecs on the show just to show some TNO. That's what we talk about, pure love here tonight. Also, Jeepers, welcome to the show. Tonight we got, as you can see, we got a surprise guest here. Just give me a second. We wanted to get Operation Destiny full and live on our screens this evening. So we got Anesu in the top right corner, and at the bottom, of course, we got Chappies, the last castaway. Chappies, people, say hello. Say hello to the people that have been waiting for you.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Chappies Diner. I'm ready to take your order.
Doesn't disappoint. Also, if he ever does open up a Chappies Diner, I'm going to expect you to say that every time, or at least if it's a takeaway, that's what you open up with. Yeah.
No problem, Claudio. Whatever you
Whatever you want, Claudio. You got it.
I'll get it. I love
whatever you want. Do whatever you want there. It's all good.
Whatever you want to. Yeah. Whatever you need to get you in the bag and maybe vote you out next round. You never know.
Oh, geez. Always playing the game. And I just want to start off, people. Today is Heritage Day. So we're going to line up by singing the national anthem. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Let's do this.
You're supposed to start, Claudio.
You have to start, Claudio. Excuse me. Where are you singing, Claudio?
I was just kidding. I wanted to see if you were actually going to do it, and you did it. Well done. I'm super chuffed with that. Okay, we've got a little bit of the national anthem going through. I like that. We've got people on the line already. Tato, Dylan, Komahelo. We've got Metso. So we've got some regular faces. So thank you for joining us. Okay, but the first one, before we kick off, the icebreaker. Seeing as Chappies, the theme was while you were on the season, your wife was pregnant and there were firstborns being out there. This question's going out to both of you. If you had to pick a name from the cast or one of the people that you played with, who would you name your firstborn child after?
From the cast?
Yes.
It'll most probably be something to do with my closest alliance members. So it will be something to do with Anesu and Santini. So let's come up with the name of those two alliance, those two names combined. Santunes? No, but that's that's now that's a lady's name, right?
It can be a lady. So are you trying to find something that's gender fluid, pretty much? So it can work for a man.
Well, if it's a lady, Santunes, Santunesu, that could be quite a good name, right? Let the creative juices flow. If it's a little boy, which in my case, Anesu, come on, you got to help me here. If it's a little boy, I would say,
You can give them the same name. I like the gender neutral idea.
Santunes, yeah. Well, yeah, that might work. Both.
Antony. Tato says Antony for the boy. That's a nice one.
Oh, that's a good one. It's almost like Antonio without the O. Anthony.
So exactly this. I want to make a clear point, Claudio.
Yes.
This is why I surround myself with clever people, because they step in when you can't necessarily do the job yourself. They step in and pull you through to the next round, and this is exactly what Anesu just did now.
Yeah, and there's that moment in the episode or the series where it does feel like Anesu's Yoda and you Luke trying to get the advice. But anyway, we'll get to that. Anesu, what name would you come up with?
I'm gonna go with the easy choice of Destiny. Destiny will be fierce regardless of whatever she's doing.
Absolutely, that's actually amazing. And if it wasn't just based on players' names, I would say Destiny is a very strong.
Break the rules there. Claudio? It was meant to be players' names. That's true.
It was meant to be a
Chad.
castaway, but you took an element of the game. So maybe Anthony, Destiny, Chapman, or Mbizvo. I don't know. We can mix it up. Yeah. What do you think? And also, if this child had to play Survivor, where do you think they would end up? What kind of player do you think they would be? I know we're getting distracted here, but why not? Let's go with it. What kind of player do you think they would be? Survivor player.
The craziest one. Finding idols, building strike packs, like winning for sure, making friends, destroying them.
That's something we've got to, maybe one day we're going to have a
chaotic, it'll be quite entertaining. And I think, we're joking about this, but within a few years, we're most probably going to watch our firstborns, line up in a game of Survivor, because 20 years ago, I was 13 watching the first season of Survivor ever. And, 20 years later, here I am alongside Anesu playing the greatest game on earth.
Yep, that's true.
I dig that. I dig watching a season with everybody's offspring.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Brilliant theme. It's a brilliant theme. I think there's enough castaways now. We just got to give it a couple. How many years? 20 years for you, Chappies. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anesu, I don't know if there's anything in the pipeline for you that we got to
It's a little while. We've got some adventures to go on, but that'll be there. As long as we have to disqualify Mauritius' two little girls. Unfortunately, I've met them. And they're just too epic.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm already ruling them out. They would clean
agree.
the slate.
Listen, if you think Mauritius got personality, you must see her two little daughters. They are up there. They are
so cool.
Yeah, they are really just personality themselves. They're such beautiful girls.
So if they were coached by her, they would have the beast side of things as well as the social side. So that's a crazy combo. That's scary stuff. All right. But Anesu and Francois, Meneer Chappies, this is, at the end of the day, your interview. And this is what we're going to be diving into your journey, the outcast in focus. That is you. So Chappies, let's kick off the first thing we're going to talk about. The name Chappies. I know it obviously stems from Chapman, but how did this come about?
Yeah, so obviously it stems from Chapman, but I think the deeper meaningful, the deeper meaning and what is the real, there's a specific word that you call it, something's more meaningful for you. It comes from my dad, he was called Chappies at high school and also primary school. And he was my hero, Claudio. Since I was a 3 or 4 year old boy, if he would cross his legs this way, I would cross my legs that way. I wanted to become a doctor because my dad was a doctor. He was called Chappies at school. And the moment someone dropped the name Chappies on my head, I was like, yes, bring on the hero name, because he's my hero. I want to wear it loud and proud. And so it's a very simple reason, but so powerful for me. And I used to be kind of shy wearing the name, because back in the days when you worried about what people thought about you, and it sounds like such a sweet, sweet name that won't cause any trouble, or but the meaning behind it is so strong for me, and that's what I stand in, and that's what that's why I really won't mind if people call me Francois Chapman or Chappies, because Francois Chapman was also my dad's name. So it's got a lot to do with this hero that I've been exposed to since an early age.
Jeepers, I just thought it was a nickname you picked up at school. Someone's like a Klein Chappies, I don't know. Anesu, do you want to add on to that? Because I think one day, I don't know if that time has come, but had he won that 6 immunity challenge, maybe it would have been in one of the Chappies papers. Did you know the record holder across all survivors is Chappies? But now you equal. Your name could still be read there. Anesu, I don't know if there's anything. I like the fact that you're on the show today, because you played the game with him, but you didn't make it to the end with him. But there's a different side that you can ask. So feel free to ask whatever's burning. I know you've caught up since then, and there are probably things that you want to talk about. But if there's anything, don't let me stop you. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things I think with Chappies is he's similar. There's so many similarities between his name and his namesake. So it's like, you from the outset, a little Chappies bubblegum doesn't look like much. It's a square. You kind of think it's a bit traditional, like, okay. And then you open it up and you get something sweet and you get some information, right? You learn something new. And that's kind of, it sums up Chappies for me. It's very much a surprise, not what you expect when you open it.
And then it can also change in shape and color, right, Nance? It's gone from a little rectangle to a bubble, a sphere, some sticky stuff.
It's flexible. Yeah. And then I think it's so funny that, the big drama that centered around Chappies was around sweets and around that whole thing that happened. So I think the similarities are all there.
Yeah, you clearly didn't speak about that because the light bulb just went off there. Chappies, I mean, wowza. Yeah, it was around the sweets. But look, the sweets are very flavorsome and your character was pretty flavorsome. And I saw some things that you posted up on Facebook. There was a bit of a bucket list that you had on going on to Survivor. And one of the things that we saw full on, or should I say early on, was the full moon, your full moon, going on there. So you wanted to go running around naked. Was that a deliberate thing going, I want to be entertaining for the public? Or was that something personally, I just think it's a cool thing? Or was this just something you do on the weekends?
This is something I do on the weekends, Claudio. To give you an idea, I arrived here in the Western Cape with my wife and my little son now about a week ago in Britsand. And the first time my son landed on the beach, we had to initiate a naked photo shoot where we just...
I mean, it's cute when the baby does it, Chappies. I don't know. It's cute that you doing it on the public beach.
Yes, but you make sure there's no one on the beach. So it's quite early in the morning or late in the afternoon when no one's on the beach. You've got an empty beach, and then what better way to introduce your firstborn to the ocean and the amazing wild than in their birthday suit, right? And you can't just let them do it alone. So you go along with them. And I'm not going to scar the viewers by showing this picture, but just imagine two pairs of bums on the beach. You've got my bums and Ruben Lee's bums and the ocean in the background. And that's what I want to show him one day. I want to show him this is freedom. This is like, you're not offending anyone. You're really enjoying the world around you as if it's heaven, because I believe it's heaven, and shouldn't we all actually be doing it? Society has constrained us so much by the conditioning that we actually forget to allow the 7-year-old within us, to come out every now and then. And so to answer your question shortly, it is actually just part of who I am. If I get the opportunity to do something like that, let the 7-year-old run naked.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that's also, and this is why I like Anesu, you being here, because you can hear where Chappies goes with the ideas. And when you were on the show, there were a lot of things that we could unpack and go through and see that the 7-year-old playing Survivor, if you were, or the 7-year-old watching Survivor and watching you play Chappies, what would he said to you now, seeing the game unfold? So if I was a 7-year-old and I saw myself playing the game, is that what you're asking? Yeah.
I think he would have been amazed by the magic that appeared on the screen. The magic that you aren't exposed, I call it magic because it's certain events that happen that you aren't exposed to every day. So he would have been amazed, and something within him would have woken up to go and search for that magic out there, and I hope and I believe that is what my journey meant to some of these kids out there. If it's towards the Euro side, it's such a privilege as well, because I believe there's a Euro within them as well. But if they saw that anything is possible and that magical things still happen within this world, and I call it magical because our minds can't always describe and analyze what's happening. If they saw that and they now know that it's possible, that is like more than enough for me. If the 7-year-old saw myself exploring and living some magic, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Chappies and I often used to speak about was the best way I could explain our relationship was like being a preschool, kiddie on the playground and finding like your little bestie there. And I think, you know, what I really resonated with when it came to Chappies was our ability to have fun and
Absolutely.
to play the game hard. And, you know, that's what you do as a child. You create this imaginary world, you dive into it 100%. But then once it's all done, you can step out of it and realize that it's just a game and you can laugh about it. And I think that's kind of how Chappies and I both played. And that's what resonated between the two of us of let's play hard, let's play to win, but let's also have some fun and some magical moments in between. It doesn't have to be so serious all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that sums it up really well. And also the vibe that when I sat with you, Anesu, that was the vibe I got was you were really happy with your journey. And I think, Francois, you have communicated that you have taken on the show, you were happy with the outcome, you were happy with everything. So looking back at it and experiencing it all, where's your mind at? I'm assuming based on the conversation and messages that I don't think you have any regrets, but what's the journey been like for you?
Claudio, it's really interesting because you go through certain phases after the game, you know. Obviously we had to wait for almost close to a year before it aired, but now in retrospect, after everything's aired, you still process a lot of things that you've learned, as well as the deeper things. You know, there's so many spiritual pennies that's starting to drop now, where I realized that the game was nothing else than a microcosm of life. You know, and the lessons you've learned throughout the game also applies to life. So looking back now to the game, it still sometimes feel, and I don't know if it's the same for you, Anes, it still sometimes feel like it's a dream that I've had. It happened. I slept one night. I had this dream of Survivor. I went through this amazing journey. I woke up and I'm back in life now. And there's a longing again for that deeper self that I've experienced throughout the game. You know, so you can't put it into words. It has been a life-changing experience for me, and it will always be something I look back on with so much gratitude and in a positive way. There's no words to describe it. It was a magical, mysterious, life-changing experience.
And I think just to echo what Chappies is saying, I actually found that going through the season with everybody, with your family watching, friends, fans of the show, it brings its own lessons as well. You know, about your pride, your ego, your sense of worth, how you let other people's opinions of you affect you. So I think if you allow it to be, it can be a deeply transformative process if you take all of that on and you use it to better yourself. And I think you're really good at doing that, Chaps, where every experience I think you've had almost throughout your life has been one that you use to grow and to learn from.
Thank you, Anis. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. You know, I try and sum it up to people and tell them, for me, Survivor either served as a school or as a prison, but it can't do both. And for me, it served as a school, you know, in the sense that I've learned so much about myself, so much about life, so much about the people around us. For a lot of the players, it serves as a prison in the sense that they are still captured by the grudges they hold against people, by the what ifs, you know, the regrets. And there's none like that within my heart. And also a few other players, you know. So yeah, it has been one of the best schools that I've experienced in my life.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the other players, because it's one thing watching it, and it's another thing, like you mentioned, playing with people. And I'm fortunate because I get these nuggets of gold every time I communicate with people, and I try and find something else. And obviously the message that comes across, especially from your perception as the game goes along and how you grow through the game, you are quite a polarizing figure. People are either going to love you or they're going to hate you. And one of the things that you did when you came on was, nonetheless, you were entertaining, which is why, congrats, by the way, fan favorite. That's the one. Yeah, fan favorite. But looking back at it, and the players that you've played with, what were the things that made you, like, for the ones that didn't like you, what were the things that didn't go your way in that scenario?
So the players that didn't like me, I would most probably say It's numerous things that you got to take into consideration. I'm going to try and mention one or two. One being the cultural difference in my case, and also the way I speak to people with the right intention, with the wrong words. And, and then secondly, the energy that you radiate. If you're confident in yourself and you enter a room, insecure people will experience you as a threat. They will immediately look at their flaws and compare themselves to you, and they won't feel valuable in your presence, and then obviously find faults reflecting their insecurities onto you. So it's going very deep, but I hope you're catching my drift, Claudio. So yeah, if I have to sum it up, it's really just the cultural difference and the way I sometimes say things. Having the right intention, the wrong words, and then also the confidence. If you're a confident person, you're already stepping on toes without even knowing it.
Sorry, go ahead. No, go.
I think from my perspective, a lot of your first impressions of people on Survivor are usually your experiences of those type of people outside of the game. So, Chappies is, let's call it like a white Afrikaans guy from Centurion. And so if you are somebody who has had a certain history or, has experiences that have been triggered by people who are like that, that'll be the thing that you see first. And I think I even had that impression of Chappies, where I was like, this Afrikaans guy from Centurion, like, what are we going to talk about? Do you know what I mean? And then what I actually had the opportunity to do because of Pinty, saying that she'd gotten to know Chappies and then her kind of being the person that brought me in, and I actually got to know Chappies on a personal level. It helped us when there were those cultural differences where we could actually speak about them from a friendship perspective first. Whereas I think some of the other players, you don't get that much time with everybody and alliances are formed quite early. So you can stay in that same first impression mindset with a lot of people. And that's, I think, what Chappies really struggled with.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Anesu. I also believe that the fact that you are so grounded but both you and Santoni also have open hearts. So you guys don't necessarily judge the person by the first impression. That also played a role in us aligning and investing in each other.
Yeah. It's one of those funny things where I remember saying to somebody that I think Santoni and I, just based on our experiences, are used to being a bit different and used to being on the outside of the group. And although Chappies might seem like this alpha personality, on Survivor, his personality kind of made him a bit of an outcast and made him a little bit of an underdog. And I think Santoni and I could recognize that, and that kind of endeared Chappies to the two of us because we got to see his heart, but then you got to see how other people didn't see it as much as we did.
Yeah, and I suppose this is what surprises me through this whole process, is that when I look at Chappies, the people that he lines himself up with initially, you've got a Paul and you've got a Pinty, who are themselves quite polarizing. You know exactly where they stand, and those were your inner circle. And then you've got the contrast in Anesu and Santoni, who, as you both mentioned, who are quite open to new things and new people. And so there is something to be said that you were able to play that game. And obviously it didn't really get communicated from a social perspective because you were seen as this figure. But your journey was all over the place. You were the player that had the most ups and downs from what we saw. Obviously some people had downs, some people had ups, but you were all over. What was the lowest part for you and the highest high? I know this is a common question, but only because you were like a pinball machine. I think I might as well ask you, where did you strike 100 points and where did you lose your 100 points?
Yeah, the lowest part and highest high, it's all relative because it's been a roller coaster ride since day one, and I've enjoyed every low as much as possible and every high as much as possible, because I believe within that ups and downs, that is where true appreciation for life comes in. You cannot appreciate the highs if you have not experienced the deepest depths. Right. Mm-hmm. But to try and answer your question, listen, Zamba was a hoe. It was really a hellhole, you know. So, but let's rewind a bit. Day 3, I can specifically remember day 3, where it was rainy and wet, and we were in the cave trying to shelter ourselves from the rain with a little bit of fire. And that was the first day I broke down and cried right next to Anesu. She was also still like crouching by the crouching, is that the right word, by the fire. And someone started crying, and then I just started crying as well, because it was so intense. And within the tears, we found kind of a comfort as well, because I'm not the only one crying. Anesu's not the only one crying. I'm not the only delusional one. Anesu is delusional. Santoni's delusional. Everyone around that campfire in that cave was like, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I expected it to be hard, but this is next level. You know, so I must say, I believe that was one of the lows that I've experienced. And because it was the first one, it might have felt like it was the worst one. Yeah, and then obviously there's a few lows that followed after that as well. Just to give you guys an idea, after Zamba 2.0, losing challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge, and not having proper food to eat, and people gunning at you. There's a few lows, but let's just take the first one into consideration. And then it's such a journey moving along the days that you're on the island, that later on, some of the lows that got you the first time round is not necessarily that bad later on, because now you've adapted your system, right? Let's just go to the high. I would say my biggest high, and this is not necessarily just something that I've experienced on a physical level, it's because it's got so much more meaning for me on emotional level, spiritual level. The highest high for me was the contentment I experienced the moment I collapsed on the last immunity challenge. Because never in my life have I gone to that point where my body gave up on me, you know. And thinking back to that day, I get emotional very quickly, because it was intertwined within my heart. It meant so much for me to know that I pushed my body to the point that it broke down. And not just that, it was as if I realized the moment I landed on the floor, I realized that the game is not about winning the title. The game is about winning, you know. And I realized that I was one of the people. Well, I realized when I laid that I won so much in experience. I gained so much knowledge, experience. I gained lessons about myself, about life. And right there on the floor, I kind of made peace with the fact that I might not get the title. And it was like a complete ego death for me. It was like a next level ego death that I haven't experienced before. Sorry, I'm really going deep now.
No, dude, you take us wherever you want to go. I'm enjoying this. And I think the viewers are finding this very insightful as well. So keep going.
And that was one of the highest highs for me, where the body and the mind was at the lowest low. People won't necessarily understand what I mean, because I think you got to go through certain processes in life before you get there, where your lowest low is actually your highest high, you know. So yeah, Claudio, the moment I dropped from that challenge was one of the most beautiful moments that I've experienced in my life, and I'm so grateful that it went the way it did.
And, you know, I think like as an external viewer, again, watching the show, you're looking at it, you're going, they've really told the story about you. And I think Warren says it perfectly here. He says the arc of the show, in the way it was edited, showed in the start of Chappies as too cool, you know, and it changed as your personality came out more and more each episode. And again, it speaks to your lowest low and the highest high, in a sense that you come from this hull pit, this hull hole. And then all of a sudden you become this demolition machine and all the challenges. And at one point where we think, oh, he's going to it's done. The season is done. It's dusted, record breaking. You're then humbled and you and most people would be shattered, but you've said, this is a new awakening for you, which is pretty incredible. But talking about a lowest low here, Chris Dixon also having a question. He's a Paul stan, and he's been out here week in, week out, and he says, Chappies, as an early bond with Paul, how different would the game have been had the man, the myth, the legend, Paul, lasted longer?
Oh, it's cool. Claudio, I must just say, you are a phenomenal host, and the way you bring in all these freaking moving parts is amazing, So let's answer Chris's question.
Anesu, why do people not want to play with this guy he's so complimentary? Look at this. I mean, this is endearing.
I mean, this is what I was asking them.
You see, Anesu is not necessarily insecure within herself, and she does not judge the book by the cover. So
yeah.
It was so funny. One of the biggest surprises when I got to Ponderosa was telling the jury that I was aligned with Chappies. They couldn't believe it, and I was like, "Wow!" Not because we had hidden it so well, but because they were like, "How could you ever get along with Chappies?" It was like the funniest thing of having to go through the things that I actually liked about him. So, but now I think that everybody's gotten to meet Chappies outside of the show. I think it's a very different story. And you can see that even with our reunion episode and things where once you get to really know the person, your opinion changes.
Anesu, I love you so much. Sorry, I just want to answer Chris's question because I know these keyboard warriors also waiting their questions to be answered. So if the game went forward with Paul, it would have been more chaotic. We would have started 5 diners all over. We would have burned. he would have burned down a few camps. We would have dominated a lot of the challenges. But I think a lot of people would have got hurt down the line because Paul unintentionally sometimes says and does things that pisses people off, if that's the right way. So it would have been a messy, chaotic kind of season.
So
Claudia, I don't know. Yeah. Have you heard the story about what Paul's idea was for Chappies' diplomatic community?
No.
Yeah, listen to this.
So we are in the middle of Vuna, right? We've been doing well. We've been winning challenges. This is before the first tribe swap. But it's cold and it's people are getting tired. And this was after Zamba had won that first individual immunity. So now we were 1-1. And Paul's is to the tribe, oh, by the way, if we just happen to have an advantage that just so happens to be able to send us to Zamba, because he didn't want anybody to know that Chappies had diplomatic immunity. So this is how he pitches it. He says, if we just happen to have that, so guys, if that ever does happen, I think we should send me. So I'll just go, I'll burn the whole camp, I'll eat all of their food, I'll sabotage everything. So just keep that in mind if we lose.
And he will cause them to lose in the next immunity challenges. That's what he said as well. But we must just make sure we then send him to Immunity Island. So it was like a foolproof plan.
And then everybody's sitting like,
it was Paul's brain baby. It's got to give you a window into sometimes these chaotic but brilliant ideas, right?
Jesus. So what you're saying is the Chappies diner would have been called Sons of Anarchy is what you're actually saying. That's what would have happened.
Most probably.
Forget about taking a couple of tablespoons of rice. That's take the whole bag and take the machete and the flint as well.
There would have been no auction. Nico would not have had food to auction up because it would have magically just disappeared between Paulus and myself.
So, Chris, I hope you're happy. He's been dying to ask us all season. So there we go. You got your answer there. Just one question from someone saying, same Chris again, saying, Chappies, if you played, you would have played the Rob game on season 7. So season 7, it's funny that I think a large chunk of the fans do know you consulted with Rob. And I don't know if it's a coincidence that your game in this season was very Rob-esque. I mean, you kind of manifest that you're going to be the winner. You kind of stay positive and you do all these things. So how much influence did he actually have on your game?
Yeah, I would say Rob had a magnificent, or not a magnificent, that's not the right word, a very big influence in my entry video, securing a spot in the game, and then me also visualizing specific things that I want in the game, because it's something I learned from Rob, and it's something that I learned at the right time, I believe. So even though I visualized or gained that from him, it does not necessarily mean that we would have played the same game, because my game was much more chaotic and physically based, whereas his was strategically based and he had control of the game completely. I had control of the game by not having control, if I can put it that way, and also by having two queen pins, aka Santoni and Anesu, who would just pull me through and help me last one more day in the game. Yeah. So Rob and I would not have played the same game as Rob if I played in season 7 or even season 8. We did not play the same game at all, but I believe the confidence was most probably similar. The visualization that we've already won the game, before it even started. There's some similarities, but it unfolds in different ways, and it will keep on unfolding in different ways unto eternity. So no one will ever be able to play exactly the same game as someone else. That's what I believe. But it really just gave me like a little kick in the right direction to, first of all, believe in myself, speak it into reality, and then freaking go and discover the reality that's been spoken.
Yeah. And I suppose by virtue, whatever it is that you believe and gives you the confidence is going to help you make the right action moving forward. And I think that's where some people tend to say of this manifestation. And I mean, Anesu, you can speak better on this. I'm just touching on it, and I'd like you to elaborate on this, is that, it is whatever you think is going to help you psychologically is what's going to be the difference in the end of the day.
Anesu, I just want you to maybe mention to Claudio as well how you guys visualized what the urn is going to look like.
Oh yeah,
and it happened, and a lot of things that they visualized that magically appeared. It's like, how do you explain that? You can't explain it.
Yeah, I mean, on Vuna, and I always say that's why Vuna was better than Zamba, to be honest. I don't think it had anything to do with the location of the camps or the people who were there, but the energy, So one of the things that we would do at Vuna at the start of every day is we would go out as a tribe onto the beach, and we would visualize an outcome for the day. So if it was a reward, we would visualize the specific type of reward: milkshakes, pizza, whatever it would be, smoothies. If it was a challenge, we'd visualize ourselves winning. And there were just uncanny things that happened. Like we visualized for our first immunity challenge, what Chappies was talking about was Pinty and I tried to visualize what the immunity idol would look like. And we said if we got it spot on in that moment when Nico revealed it, we would know that we would win the challenge. And that's exactly what happened. We visualized these snakes winding around something and then with a skull on top, and that's what happened. We visualized the fire kit that Chappies won. And every time, I mean, Vuna, I think, lost one tribe immunity challenge, the whole tribal game. And we visualized every single win, and we won it. So I think that was...
Here's the only constant of Vuna. Anesu.
Yeah.
But it's just really interesting, Claudio, and to put the cherry on top of the visualization is at some stage Anesu and I also visualized that we're going to go to the final 3, with a third member, which would have been most probably Santoni at that stage, and we're going to have a breakfast. And little did we know that we were still going to have a breakfast. It was just not the type of breakfast that we thought we're going to have. But so it's just so magical. It's mysterious to look at these things in retrospect as well. But yeah, so mind is still blown if I think about all those things.
Yeah, I think that was a unique moment as well. Someone from the jury, also a great twist in the game, because it does give the players in the game a huge advantage if they know how to pick the right player. And in your case, I've touched on the fact that she was Yoda, or Anesu was Yoda, and you were Luke. I mean, how great was it? Like, I suppose you can't get a family visit every single week, but in your case, you got your wife, and you kind of got assistant Anesu coming back and going, listen, I actually know exactly what's going on here, and this is the lowdown.
Oh, it was amazing. You know, if you get blindsided and you lose one of your closest allies, it feels like they are dead within the game, you know. So them arriving back in the game feels like it's someone that's been dead, that's been brought back to life, to come and
The
give
Phoenix.
you a hug and a few hints
ashes
how to
rise
make
the
it right to the
Phoenix.
final.
The eagle.
Literally.
Oh, it's the eagle. There we go. The Anesu eagle came back. Oh, goodness.
You know, so
Reincarnated as the bird and came back as an Anesu. Geez, you're a shapeshifter. What kind of voodoo is
Wow,
this?
look at that.
yeah, so it was incredible to experience that from, you know, that type of a twist, and to just be exposed to the love from Anesu again for those few minutes, and then go back into the game. Get some vital info, some Anesu sprinkles that I can put on my final tribal speech, and then go back into the game. That was really an amazing twist or advantage. Yeah, and to be quite honest, at that point, I felt like, whoa, you know, the advantage just keep on piling up. It feels like this was, you know, it was written for me, but you know, it's not the case. It was just my perception within that in the game, and also us, I believe, visualizing and speaking this into reality.
Yeah.
So there was something that obviously didn't work for some. Body corporate isn't very imaginary or visionary sort of thing. It's a structural thing. It's something that exists in our current society. Hilgard's saying, would you like to hear he would like to hear Chappie's thoughts on the body corporate that dissolved so quickly. So Chappies, they gave us down the points, the breaks. So let's hear this. Why did it dissolve?
Yeah, Anesu, you can correct me with the first points in Vuna 1.0 if I'm wrong, but I think the body corporate originated in Vuna 1.0, and it was Mike's idea, where he just wanted to bring, you know, the people together, and a body corporate was another word for a round table where everyone would sit and make the decisions for the tribe's sake. And then we got the tribe swap, and unfortunately then Mike and Carla brought it on themselves, where they were very insecure and thought I was out to get them because I wrote down Mike's name out of formality. You know, I knew Pinty was going home the first round because of my queen pin Anesu and Santini. Yeah. And so I knew that. I wasn't blindsided about that, but I promised Pinty that I won't write a name down. I wanted to prove a point. So I wrote down Mike's name out of formality. Going into Zamba 2.0, Mike now had that in the back of his head. He's like, shit, you know, Chappies wrote down my name. He's coming for me. I better do something about it. And him and Carla were like,
sorry, Chappies. Just before you continue, this accent that you keep. Were you a fan of Western movies growing up? What is it?
Absolutely,
cowboy, bro.
Absolutely, boy. If you ain't Western fan, what's wrong with you? Even unless you've got some Western fan in you, y'all.
Oh, hot damn, he's got the quickest guns out there in the West. I don't know, that's the top of you chip in here.
I ain't gonna chip in. I ain't gonna chip in.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, you know, it's just a way of telling stories a bit every now and then. You know, you add some spice. Anyway, Mike and Carla were out to get myself and Paul now because, like, they gunning for us. We got to take out the bazookas and boom.
Yeah.
So the moment that news reached me via my queen pin Santini, I was like, body corporate's got to disintegrate. My door's open for business. Anela come in, Sean come in, Amy come in. Let's do it. And unfortunately, that was the end of the body corporate. The moment someone within your alliance or tribe, you know, paints a target on your back to the degree that Mike and Carla did, it's like I can't see how you fix that. You know, it was just unfixable at that point in time because they were really serious in getting myself and Paul out, and then we had to pull the trigger first.
And then you also had the battle of the chefs with Paul and Wada, of course, brewing in the background. So that's and Wada being Carla's, another one of Carla's allies. So I think there was a lot of dramatics going on there.
Absolutely, yeah. There's always so much more going on than meets the eye. We try and make sense of it by saying it was only A, but it was A, B, C, D, E, F. A must probably carried most of the weight, but so many contributing factors.
Yep. And you know what? Body corporates never lasted long anyway, from my experience. Just for future players out there. Warren saying, Chappies, after all the coconuts, would you be happy if you woke up Christmas morning and there were a dozen coconuts under the tree?
Yeah, you know what? Coconuts has got a different meaning for me now. They were really my companion when I was lonely at Chappies Diner. They filled up my stomach. They were a form of currency between myself and Anesu. I would pay her some coconuts. She would feed me some information. That would happen late at night. I would not show away a bunch of coconuts. I really look differently at coconuts since the Survivor experience. Definitely.
Coconut is epic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the one thing that, like, especially as someone who's plant-based, when I meet people who don't like coconut, I'm like, this is personal now. It's like coconut and avocado. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. We might not be able to be friends if you don't like coconut and avo. Like.
Claudio, we ate these coconuts. We would slice them into small little strips. It also almost looks like it's sliced biltong, right? Then you would roast them in your potjie. You pour one cup of seawater in so it'll absorb all of the salt, and it would start turning dark brown, as if it'll look like pieces of biltong. It was incredible.
Delicious.
At some stage, I even offered some of the crew. I'm like, taste this. I'm gonna have this in Woolworths someday.
Did you break the fourth wall? Did you do that? And what did they eat it? Were you bribing them?
They were like,
this is a hobo who hasn't washed in a while. Look at his fingernails handing me this coconut. Let me just accept it and throw it away. There's no way they were eating that coconut.
And no, when they tasted it, they were like, oh my goodness, this is some real beautiful stuff coming out of this hobo's hands, So,
wow. Oh, good old coconut.
Hey? I mean, the other thing we had was oysters. Oh my gosh. I've never dined on oysters the way I dined on them on Survivor. We went a little bit crazy on oysters.
How did you flavor them? What did you like? Because it can't be great. Like just straight.
Fresh from the rocks. And if the tribe knew how many oysters Anesu and I ate before we took 5 or 10 to them, they would have voted out.
I knew it. Hang on, Chappies. You see that? And that's why Anesu always had the smile on the jury going, I've known this all along. And Chappies, it's been the two of us. It wasn't just the one-man show. I think that was a question someone asked. They actually said, was the Chappies Diner a one-man show, or did you have other people you were sharing with? Now we found the other culprit, Archer.
Chappies shared with everybody. Who didn't you share food with?
What do you mean? At Chappies Diner, or you mean like the oysters and stuff?
Throughout.
No, so some of the higher class food, like the stolen coconuts and
the high class,
more expensive things on the Chappies Diner menu. That's what he's referring to.
Yeah, and some of the meat we taken at the reward, that was only shared with my closest alliance members, Santini and Anesu. Anesu got a vegan borsie, and Santini got a Buddha borsie, and I still had 4 in my backpack just to feed this machine,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I shared with my closest alliance members. But when it came to things like crabs and mussels, oysters, in the beginning, I made sure that we foraged for the tribe. It wasn't necessarily a selfish thing. We foraged for the tribe. Everyone ate from it. And until things got serious, until they started messing with my alliance and voting out my closest alliance members, then I was like, the hell with this. Shit's going to go down.
And there was this big debate because one of the rules that was established, I think during the tribal game, was that if you won a food reward and you came back to the tribe, that you weren't allowed to have any tribe food. And so this was like a majority rule that everybody came up with. But I think there were a lot of people who were like, but actually, if it's a reward, it should be an advantage. You should get what you would normally get and the reward on top of it. So there was also that friction of some people feeling like that was a fair rule and some people feeling like that completely canceled out the benefit of a reward.
Who threw that rule out there, by the way, if you don't mind me asking? Because that's an interesting rule. I know, like, it's a mini society, you create the rules, but now it's like, hang on, you've worked hard to get a reward, but now because you won the reward, you don't get to eat the rice back home. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to call out names, but yeah, I'm not going to call out names. I just know it was a rule that was put out there, and I felt was unfair. I felt that I was with that people withheld food that was actually my basic necessity was withheld from me. So I decided I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to go at night, collect my portion with some interest, and then go at Chappies Diner and maybe cook it up, So here's my question to the people. Was that rice stealing actually rice stealing, or was it actually just collecting what was mine, but it was withheld because of some rule that only benefited the people who made the rule?
I loved how in that one Chappies was like, yeah, I got all of these sweets, but I need carbohydrates. Like, I need to fill my body up with carbohydrates. And the doctor in me was like, whoa, we've got a way to go.
Yeah, but even like he's popping those sweets in there, and you're doing the squats. Oh, it's like cheapos, bro. That sugar rush is not going to help you. Like, what is going on here?
Claudio, you cannot describe the effect that sugar has on you when you've been anti-sugar for so many weeks. It felt like I could fly through the mountains with that sugar, but it comes very suddenly. It's not necessarily like an instant kick. It's like all of a sudden you feel like doing 100 push-ups. You don't know why. Yeah. You just want to do it. And what wasn't shown is while I was doing my full body workout, I had a complete emotional breakdown. And, it was mostly due to Anesu being voted out and being one of the biggest blindsides that I've had to experience. And then I had an emotional breakout in the sense where I just cried in front of the camera. And I'm like, man, I actually realize now why I work out. It's because it's my way of dealing with emotions and of keeping my mind healthy. While I was still on the sugar rush. But yeah, it was just having that sugar rush. It's something you cannot explain, and you look at sugar completely in a different way after you've been on Survivor.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think Anesu could get down to the scientific facts on that note. But Operation Destiny, the name, where it came from. Let's hear this. I think this is an interesting one. It's an iconic name within the season. That, and I'm also at Chappies Diner. I'm hoping that you serve the eagle sort of energy drinks with Anesu's face that give you wings. That's what I'm hoping for. But yeah, Operation Destiny, tell us.
Oh, Operation Destiny, Anesu, please. You take all the credit. It was her brain baby.
Yeah, I mean, so Operation Destiny wasn't actually planned. So before that Thai Destiny's twist had come into play, we had already been talking about getting Tyson out just because of the fact that he was a threat. And, Chappies had been talking to Rainier. I'd been chatting to the two of them, and we felt like there was more leverage to play there. And so when Thai Destinies came around, that's where the name Destiny came from, because the Thai Destiny twist was essentially what paired people together. It just seemed like music to our ears that Tyson and Wada were together and that we could take out two people for the price of one, essentially. So we were really excited about it. Chappies and I had a long chat about whether it made sense. There was that issue about the numbers and whether that would then make us even in terms of the numbers between Vuna and Zamba. but we had my tribal council pass. So I think Chappies and I were quite aligned with going ahead with the plan. But then Santini was also a part of our alliance. And, you know, Chappies had spent a lot of time with Santini. I had spent time with her at the very start of the game. So I was also trying to build trust with Santini, because we had said, we actually called ourselves the Destiny 3, because our alliance came together around that time, and we said we were going to go to the end together. So when Chappies and I discussed Operation Destiny with Santini, she was concerned because when it came to Marisha's blind side at the start of Merge, she had betrayed the Zamba people, particularly Amy. And she was worried that even if she saved them, that they wouldn't have loyalty to her afterwards. And she was quite upfront about that. And she said it just didn't serve her game to go ahead with the plan. And Chappies and I spoke it through. And I think at the end, we realized that it was more important to have Santini on our side, and for Santini to feel like our alliance was democratic and that we were all on the same level for the long term of our games, than us just getting our 2 numbers and that just being in place. So that's essentially what ended up happening there. And I think in a weird way, it kind of defined all of our destinies in the game. It was very much like they fated the way that all of that worked out. But it's a really interesting turning point to think of, if that hadn't have happened, I think, you know, my gameplay might have gone on a little bit further, but I don't think I would have advanced all the way to the end. And I think maybe Santini's and I's placements, maybe that would have been the difference. But I think at the end of the day, I kind of believe in that whole butterfly effect thing where you can change one action, but the outcome ends up being exactly the same in the end anyway.
So you like Aston Kutcher being your protagonist. I get it. I mean, who doesn't? Let's be honest. But anyway, it's Metso has got a question. He's been dying to ask, saying, if there was a theme, heroes versus villains, which side do you think the 2 of you would pick? And obviously, you don't have to be in the same tribe here.
I love the idea of a hero, but we've always got some villain within us, you know. So I would have most probably picked the hero side and progressed slowly towards the middle of heroes versus villains, because that's where I feel every human is supposed to be. There's a hero within us as well as a villain, and it's a constant battle throughout life. So it is. To answer the question, I would have started most probably at hero, just because I love the idea of hero.
Yeah. I think I'm the opposite. I went into Survivor wanting to explore my dark side, because I'm always connecting to the light. I'm always uplifting people, and gratitude. All of that's what I do. So I went into Survivor wanting to explore how deceiving I could be. In that sense, I don't think I was that convincing. I don't think a lot of people would consider me to be a villain. But, in terms of what I felt I had to do, I did betray people, and I think if I had gone into the game with a different mindset of wanting to be a hero, wanting to be well-liked, my game definitely would have been different to how I played it. So,
yeah, I do. I think I like what, yeah.
I see we've got our other queen pin in here as well. Quite a cook sister. That says, I must have been the villain and you must have been the hero, Anesu.
Look, I think that's a very good strategic move.
This is what the conversations were like in our alliance. It was like, Chappies, what do you think? Anesu, what do you think? Santini? And then it has to go around like 5 times.
And it's really difficult. It's really difficult to get to a conclusion when you've got people from 3 people from different backgrounds, different mindsets, cultures, Anesu, myself, and Santini. So we gather all this information, but we process it differently. And now we've got to decide on one outcome. So people might think that's easy, but it really becomes difficult if you want everyone to feel like they are equal within the lines.
Yeah, and I mean, just let's outline that quickly. You've got Santini saying, Chappies villain, Anesu no-brainer hero. Then you saying, you're a hero. Anesu saying, no, she's the villain. So that's just to paint the picture. And I think that's perfect. That's a perfect way to sum that up. A nice way. Hilchot saying, Chappies, you took a bit of flack quite a few times at Tribal. How hard, easy was it to stay calm? Because let's be honest, a lot of the time they did turn on you, and that was interesting to see that.
Yeah, Hilchot.
But you did have Anesu. Sorry, you did have Anesu's smile every time these things did happen. We saw that. So anyway, I don't know how much that contributed, but yeah, as you were.
You know, I'm lucky enough that it was 99% of the time, it was really easy for me to keep calm. I think most of the times at Tribal, I got excited. Even if they were guns blazing at me with the sweets and with the merge episode, excitement would describe the feeling I had most. But I contribute the fact that I stayed calm a lot to the fact that I contributed a lot to the level of awareness, if I can put it that way. And I think Anesu will also be able to speak with me about that. If you go into the game of Survivor and you constantly remind yourself it's a game, you are a person from outside the game, within the game, you're here to play the game, and then you're going to leave the game. You aren't the game. Your life doesn't end when the game ends, you know. It's just, it's an experience that you have. If you can get to the point where you as a person within the game can remind yourself about that constantly, you are going to be more aware of your feelings and more in control of your emotions. And I really believe that played to my advantage quite a lot. You know, I contribute my control over the emotions a lot to the fact that I was, I believe, more aware than some of the players within the game.
Yeah. Well, there you go, Hilchot. Also, another interesting moment that was quite controversial within the season is Nico seemingly defending you. And I would also like to get like what you experienced from that situation. Also, how you saw it play out, because we only see an edited bit, but them saying, you know, when that shook out, a lot of people saying the case that Nico made was the case that you were meant to make for yourself. And it felt like he was stepping in to protect you in a certain sense. I don't know. Let me start, Anesu, from your perspective, how you saw that, and then Chappies can elaborate.
Yeah, you know, I think it's a difficult situation because had things have happened differently, I think Nico would have reacted differently. You know, if this was very much a one-sided offense, then I think Nico would have taken a one-sided approach to it and have said to Chappies, okay, you broke the rules, that's not allowed, this is how you'll be disciplined. But that actually wasn't how it happened. And to be honest, the blurred lines are a lot more than just what was shown. So, you know, what had actually happened was Chappies had gone to the auction, had taken sweets from the auction, had come back to camp, and then had then taken some rice because he wasn't allowed to have rice because he'd had sweets at the auction. But all he had at the auction was sweets. So that was all he had to sustain himself. So his reason for stealing was the fact that he wasn't allowed tribal food when he got back. Then what also happened was that people went into Chappies' bag to find my tribal council pass. And in doing so, when they found the sweets, they then ate the sweets as well. So they stole the stolen sweets out of the bag and ate them. Then we had the whole situation with Warda and, you know, Warda choosing to take the rice for the tribe, but then also putting it into her bag. So there were so many blurred lines in that scenario that I think if you're an objective person, everybody was at fault. And I think the only way that Nico could show that to the audience and make everybody on the tribe realize that was by what he said, essentially. And I think he made the right call there, but he needed to explain why he didn't take action for people to not revolt. And I think that's what he was trying to do.
I agree 100% with Anesu. She summed up so beautifully. And here's the thing that the viewers must understand as well. Nico is one of the only sane people within the game that can communicate with the players and with the cast, and that has got a holistic point of view of everything that's happening, right? And he must now make a conclusion within a few seconds while he listens to the cast, while there's things being whispered into his ear. You know, there's a lot of information that this guy's got to process, and then he's got to give a conclusion. because time is running. And if you take that into account, I think I don't see any other way that he could have handled it better. You know, if someone's got a suggestion there, I would love to hear it. But that is
Except
why
for maybe penalizing. I think he could have penalized everybody. It's either you penalize nobody, so that everybody has essentially lost because other people have also stolen and other people have also broken the rules, or you penalize everybody who was at fault, and that was essentially every single person on the tribe.
Very good point that you're making, Anes. Yes, I think I didn't even think of it that way. You know, it's either everyone gets penalized or no one gets penalized at all. But if we go now again the route of everyone gets penalized, to what degree are we going to do it? And then that becomes complicated, because I don't think it's happened in the past that I know of. So now Nico must come up with something and say, okay, Kieran, you will now go, or the Kieran and the rest of the people who ate some of the meat, you aren't as guilty. You will only go and you will sleep in the ocean for the next 2 days or something like that. You know, Chappies, you will lose immunity completely. So it becomes complicated, but very interesting, right? What will I do if a situation like this rises again in the future?
Yeah, I think that's also what I want to ask. The rules, these rules that were spoken of, I just thought it was the most bizarre thing, that it was like, it felt like, teacher, you know, so-and-so did this, teacher, can you help? You know, and for me, what are the survivor rules when you're coming on? Do they stipulate, like, you get a sheet saying you're allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do this, this and this. This is what will happen. These are the consequences if you break these rules. Do you guys get that pre-briefed, so to speak, before playing?
Yeah, Nesh, you can also correct me if I'm wrong. You do get a set of rules that you got to abide by, within the game and also outside of the game. You know, so within the game, the specific things that you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Like, for example, you're not allowed to steal something from someone's bag that belongs to them. You know,
but you can search through a bag.
Yes, you can search through a bag. You're not allowed to steal idols. There's a lot of rules, and it's really quite a lot of rules that you got to spend some time to get to know the rules. I most probably only took in about 50% of it, but I knew you're not allowed to steal at rewards. You know, take food at the rewards. Yet in that survival mode, you tend to bend the boundaries a bit. You tend to test the boundaries, because, to be quite honest, you really, survival mode is activating another animal within yourself that would do things that you won't necessarily do in your everyday life. You know, at some stage I was so hungry that I even considered stealing the crew's food. You know, how crazy is that? But
I don't think it's crazy. If they're leaving it lying around, I think go for it. Knock yourself out. If you get caught, that's a different issue.
Yeah. So it's just incredible what type of animal you discover within you if your body starts deteriorating to the degree we experienced. And that's where I get a bit emotional when I see people say, listen, they're getting food every day and what. If you're losing a kilogram every second or third day, you know, it's really, you in starvation mode. Certain systems are being shut down. Reproductive systems are being shut down. You know, your thought processes start to change. Your senses start to heighten because you're in hunting mode. It's a survival code that's been programmed within each and every human being. And I think what differs from person to person is the degree that you must be pushed to before it's activated.
Yeah. And I would just add to that the rules that they do set are very few and far between, but most of them are actually to make the game more fair. You know, I mean, if you think about this whole thing of not stealing something from somebody's bag, I think the main reason for that is because of idols. And it makes sense. If somebody's gone through getting a clue, searching for the idol, I mean, you don't have a lot of pieces of clothing, you know, especially for the woman. Hiding an idol as a woman is tough. You can see a lot of the time you're wearing tight clothing. It can be seen. So if it was possible for people to just take whatever they needed to, it would ruin a lot of gameplay. And so I think that thing of being able to look through somebody's bag so that you have the benefit of your labor of sneaking around, and, you know, now you have more information. And that kind of, I think, is a bit better than just saying it's a free for all. And, you know, people would be searching for idols in people's bags all the time and taking them if that was the case.
Oh, thanks for clearing that up, because I wasn't sure exactly the dynamic to all of that. And then I took it from a sense where I was looking at what Nico was doing, and I was saying we had these sort of issues in the previous season, and I've used this term often, the moral filth sort of conversation. And it's going, you know what, this is Survivor. You got to do whatever it takes. And you speak about your wild, wild west instinct there, Chappies, which is why the accent always comes out. You know, when times are desperate, you got to do whatever it takes. And I think that's also what endeared you to a lot of people. So credit to that. So don't get too emotional about what's being said about whether or not this is real Survivor, not Survivor, whatever. Who cares? You did it. You lived it. That's what counts. I think the one thing that we want to discuss, and I think this is a question I got on Instagram, your swimming capabilities. I mean, the Aquaman thing, it just gets thrown out there now. It's synonymous with your name. But when you were swimming at school, what is your favorite stroke? That was a question I've got.
The swim I appreciated the most was butterfly, because it just looks so beautiful. It looks so gracious, you know. I admire the style of butterfly, but my strongest swim was always freestyle. And on that note, I'm not necessarily the strongest swimmer out there. If you're among a few people that aren't necessarily swimmers, you're gonna look like a freaking crazy swimmer. You know, you're gonna look like an Olympic medalist. But if I go up against the Olympic medalists, I will look like Anela in the water. You know?
Not shots being fired at Anela.
Anela, much love, but you know, I think you'll catch my sense of humor over there.
Dolores saying, as a first-time SA watcher, I wanted to say thank you for making the season an absolute pleasure to watch. I will return thanks to you both. There we go. Hey, flex that. I mean, it kind of says he's saying TNO for those of you who don't know. I know his chest is saying he's out, but he's not out yet. He's still got a few more minutes. Right, Anesu, Chappies, it is time. It is time that we're going to talk about the Golden Spear. And obviously, this is a recap of the season. What is the Golden Spear? And it can be pertaining to your game, Chappies, or it can be throughout the season, looking at it objectively, going, regardless of whoever it was, this was the best moment in the game.
It might be very controversial, but you know, I would put myself to a very close second. But people are frowning upon Nicole winning, but what I've realized is that this lady came in and she said she was going to be underestimated, and she was underestimated right till the end. And
sorry, Chappies. I'm just having a thought. She was on here last week going, sorry for you, Chappies, and here you going defending her game. I love this. Keep going.
Yeah, and you know that it won't. A response won't change in the way I feel. She was underestimated right till the end, from the start to the end, and she came in wanting to play a more, what is the correct word? Honest, honorable game. Not honest, but with integrity. That was a word, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought it's not possible to play the game of Survivor with integrity. And I still believe it's not possible. But she was the person who was the least deceitful, who lied the least, if I had to say, you know. So in a sense, she played the most honest game of all of us. And she made it right through the end, which proved me completely wrong. And another thing that I really admire from her is the fact that she the small little powerhouse that she is did not stand back to Aquaman or to Spider-Man or to Puzzle Man. She had this fierce energy within her when it came to the challenges that I would always admire. And I believe the game of Survivor brought magnifying glass over our flaws and weakness, our flaws and strengths. And in this case, I would give Nicole the golden spear because of the fact that she had those characteristics. She never said that. She never stood back. She never said die. And she was underestimated right through the game. And it was a plan going into the game, right? And then right second, just on her heels, I would give myself the golden spear because of the chaotic, beautiful, chaotic game that was played.
Love that. Yeah, I think I'm very much the same with Chappies there. You know, I think our season is quite unique in that there were a lot of powerhouses. You know, we have Kieran, Santoni in terms of strategy, Chappies in the physical game, you know, even Tyson. Our jury is full of power players, but none of those power players won the game. And I genuinely feel that when it comes to the game of Survivor, the person who wins is the person who had the better game, because you've managed to get to the end and you've won the final tribal at the end as well. And I felt a lot of solace, I think, voting for Nicole at the end, because I think as somebody who's played the game, you always want the person who wins to have one-upped you in some way. And if you look at Nicole's, whether it's her perseverance, her loyalty, her performance in challenges, she one-upped everybody in that sense. And nobody can say that she didn't. So I think she's a very deserved winner. I think, you know, if you're a strategic fan of the show, then yeah, maybe you're a bit disappointed. But it's quite nice in 2020, 2021 to have the winner of the show be this underdog figure who just persevered and who survived. That's what Nicole really did. And yeah, kudos to her. She definitely earned my respect, really, just from getting to the end, beating Chappies in that endurance challenge. Like, you know, your mental strength to hold on endurance-wise against somebody who you've lost against 5 times. That's a lot.
Stick it out. One loss.
Yeah. And her losses were not near misses, right? Chappies had lapped Nicole in a number of challenges. So for her to not let that get her down and not, you know, put down her spirits. Yeah, I think she's amazing for the fact that she endured and that she's very persistent. So I'd also give it to her.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to add one more thing on that. I believe, you know, the fact that Nicole won and we saw her journey also made me realize that she was one of the only people that entered the game who said, I want to have fun. I'm just here to tan and to lose weight, which is to have fun and live my best life. And I was so irritated at that time. But looking back now, I realized that the lesson I've learned is,
yeah, you tanned as well in your Speedo. I still remember one of the shots. My mates and I were looking at like, is this guy seriously tanning in a Speedo right now? And you did that. So maybe she inspired you. I don't know.
It was not my intention going in just to tan and lose weight, you know. But now looking back, I realized that the lesson I've learned from Nicole's journey is we must just have fun as well. Sometimes having fun is winning as well. Well, most of the time, all the time, having fun is winning. And Nicole's case, going into the game, just wanting to have fun, got her the title. So if we have to take a life lesson from her journey, that's something that we must also take and know that just by having fun in life, you're already also actually winning. You know, you might damn win the title of Survivor.
Yeah.
Claudio, I don't know if anyone on the jury has told this, that we had a bit of like a jury game every time we'd go to tribal council, where anytime Chappies would say, you know, Nico, in life, we would give each other a fist bump every time we heard that at final tribal. And it happened about 5 or 6 times every tribal where Chappies would give that quote of like, you know, in life. So if anyone's watching this back, just have a little bit of fun getting some Easter eggs and see how many times Chappies says in live during this interview as well.
Just make sure you put cream on your knuckles,
really
because it seems like you're going to get a rash or something afterwards if you've done it so many times there, Chappies. Yeah?
I didn't realize how much I said that, but I think it's because the game of Survivor is so dear, is so close to life, and is thus so dear to my heart, you know, because it's really
come Anesu, he said it.
Anesu, there's the first pump.
There we go. There we go.
It's a parallel, and if you allow yourself to learn such things in the game, you will definitely benefit from it in life.
Nice, I like it. Also, just my 2 cents on the Nicole winning thing. Oh,
you're leaving on this there, right?
Sorry, and Sean's contributing.
Sean, we see you.
But I do think Nicole winning, like, just it adds to the season. I think had you won, I mean, it would have been a great season nonetheless, and it would have been like a purest sort of Survivor from an aspect of you being physical and doing the thing, and it's the chaos, you know. But her winning was completely left field, and people weren't really expecting it, so it really added to the overall entertainment, I think, and adds like an extra star. So that's my personal opinion.
It was the best unexpected ending for one of the best seasons ever. Period.
No, definitely. I think so. South African season, definitely. And I'm not just saying this because you're on the show, but if I have to recap and think about it, I'm going, this is a season that had players that actually were playing, were strategic about it. They weren't just following one thing. They were competitive in challenges. They were competitive outside of challenges. They were stealing. They were moaning. There was a bit of that moral stuff that crept up eventually. That's just the South African nature, I think. But definitely also production in South African condition. Best season from that perspective. So, yeah, I've got to agree with that. Wooden spoon. This is the moment that, if you're looking back at it, and let's look at from a game dynamic perspective, not players, castaways. If you had to look at the game and what happened with it, was the twist, the rewards, what is the one low light for you that possibly could have been improved upon?
Anesu, if you've got something that pops up, you can go first. I'm trying to think. I really can't critic the game in any way, Claudio. I'm struggling to think of something where I can critic the game or something.
Okay, wait. Don't think about that then. We've got Joseph here. We haven't touched on this. Joseph, he's a regular, and he said, did Chappies talk about endlessly trying to find that idol in camp? The cameras kept showing him digging and digging and digging. Thanks to Nella. So we might as well talk about that. That could have been the wooden spoon for you. Wooden moment. I don't know if you enjoyed that so much, but...
So thank you, Joseph, for helping me. The wooden spoon is the fact that there wasn't a damn idol while I was while I kept on digging. You know, I was digging my ass off. I just couldn't find anything. But Joseph,
I remember that. I don't know if so. Sean's here. Sean was cracking up about doing this, and Sean told me about this prank that they were playing with Chappies, and I even said to Sean, I was like, "Oh, shame. I love him so much, but I'm also just going to let him dig," because it was so funny watching Chappies do this wild goose chase. And I think I even came up to you after a while. I had my laughs. Sean and I we were giggling. And then I felt bad. And I came to Chappies after a while and I told him the story. And when I told him, I was just looking at his eyes and he was still like trying to look behind me. And I was like, this guy's way too far gone. It doesn't matter what I say. He's going to think
so I can't even remember you telling me, because I was so convinced that there was a freaking hidden idol buried there somewhere, you know? But there's two parts of it, Joseph. So just to answer your question, the first half of that merge episode, I was really digging for the idol because of the clues. And I still thought that it's there. The second half of the episode, I was still digging for the idol, but because I wanted to draw more attention to myself. But in the back of my mind, I thought, I'm still digging for a real idol as well. So it's like a double whammy, you know. So I'm doing both here. I'm drawing attention to myself, but I've got clues that the idol's here somewhere. So my closest allies think that I'm just digging. Meanwhile, I'm digging for a real idol. You know.
Also, you're saying don't forget the merge idol at the feast, but I also think you might have another line of work here, because Dolores saying she personally had no problems with Chappies taking his clothes off. Just saying. So I don't know, OnlyFans. Let's take that out. Geez, what does Sean say? Sean says Anesu actually told Chappies and he didn't believe her. So that's, I mean, wow.
The idol frenzy, idol madness was on the brain.
I think that's
a real thing, hey? I don't know if any other castaways can relate, but when you are hunting for an idol, something else kicks into gear. You look like a crazy person. It doesn't matter who you are.
You do.
But you just did it. You did it and you were out there. And I think that was pretty impressive. I think the other thing you mentioned somewhere, and I read it somewhere or saw it somewhere, was you coming into the game, Chappies, you were looking at previous winners, how they played their game. But one thing that really stood out for me was you said you looked at what they were doing from an entertainment perspective. And it got me thinking, I mean, there's a reason you were fan favorites. Was that something, one of your bucket list items that you're like, I'm going to come onto this game and I want to be as entertaining as I can be for the camera and possibly walk away with a fan favorite thing? Was that deliberate, or was that you just being, I'm Chappies playing the game? Because, I mean, you mentioned you studied this. So, please.
Yeah. No, so I think it's a little bit of both, Claudio. If you keep in mind that you are part of an amazing show, right? And you are experiencing specific things in the show, and now you must tell stories about what you've experienced. You can do it either one of two ways. You can do it without color, or you can do it with color. And if you do it with color, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not you. It's just you with a bit more spice, and people relate more to you because of the spiciness, you know. So, yeah. And I picked it up from Tony in season 40, the Winners at War. This guy was so entertaining, and he would have, you know, his confessionals would be like childlike, and you can't wait to hear how he describes this beautiful brush. You can't wait because you've never seen this brush. You've seen it 1,000 times in your life, but the way he describes this brush just makes you feel like you want to go buy a brush now. And I think keeping that in mind, and also
how many brushes are you planning on selling after this? I'm just putting that out there as well. Chappies brush. There we go. Also, Tony, bear in mind, Tony's got no hair, so you already one up in there.
So keeping that in mind really helped, and it's a way of staying sane as well. It's a way of reminding yourself it's a game. You know, it's like if you have to now go and say how someone's trying to backstab you, and you really pull all the negative energy towards you, and you're like, shit, this is the end of my life within the game, I'm going to die and it's all over. Or you kind of make it fun and you color it in, and you bring back the playfulness of and awareness of the game that it is. And every time I had to tell the story, I just kept in mind that there might be a little kid out there, and I want to make sure that I color in the story as much as possible for this person. So if I got to bring out the big guns, you got to do it, you know.
And Tato's saying your big guns in this case is your Captain America butt. There we go. That's your big guns, bro.
So I hope that answers the question. And the other thing as well, if you go into the game playing it as if it's your second time and as if it's your last time, you're gonna really make sure that you go into the red with everything. You're gonna take more risks. You're gonna tell a story with more spice, and you're gonna have absolutely no regrets whether you're out on day 1 or day 39. You know, and that was my holistic mindset going in with the entertainment component.
Yeah, and it paid off. And that's from a wooden spoon perspective. Do you want to just touch on this?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I think my view of our season is that everybody played the part that they were there to play, to be honest. In terms of wooden spoons, yeah, what I would have thought might have been nice is for there to be like an unexpected Immunity Island twist that could have been added in, possibly, where maybe 2 people could have gone. So that was another thing that we considered with Operation Destiny, was what was going to happen with Immunity Island. And I think the Operation Destiny twist in itself, people have received it in kind of a 50-50 way. And I think if there had been that added strategic element where maybe you had to choose different people from different pairs to go to Immunity Island and make a choice about whether they wanted to play and stay, or just something that could have spiced up that twist a little bit more, other than just the fact that it was left to fate. I think could have maybe that's what I would have added in. But other than that, I think it was such an epic season, and every single thing had to happen for it to turn out the way that it did.
Yeah, and I think that's a very, very fair shout. Najwa just on the line. She's your person here, Chappies, saying the one thing I appreciated so much. Chappies took everything with a smile. They roasted him all over, and my guy remained positive. Let's flex. She's flexing there. You got to flex for her. Come on, show the flex. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Yeah, that's some big guns, bro. Come on, take it easy. You're gonna crack the screen with those guns. Okay. All right. Storm's Brewing.
Don't act as if you did not see that face before. Come on.
I've seen them all.
Storm's Brewing. This is where we obviously make our predictions, but in this case, the predictions of what your next steps are. Anesu, Chappies, what do you have planned? Where can people follow you? What is it? What's the next thing that you're going to be doing?
I'm just up for adventure. I always say to people that I don't really plan my life too much, because I change as a person based on what I experience. So my yoga studio is doing really well. We are going to be on a magazine cover in October, so you can look out for that. But other than that, I'm leaving things open for life to surprise me, and it's helped me so far. So I'm just keen to see how the year ends.
I love how Anesu describes it, that she doesn't plan too far ahead because we change. And I've also realized that the last while, sometimes if we plan too far ahead, you confine yourself, if you constrain yourself, within a specific box. But a general intention that I have moving forward, inviting opportunities with this intention, is just any form or platform where I can really help people think differently about themselves and about life. That is something that I'm going to pursue. It's always been a dream of mine, and Survivor has now given me a kick in a direction where I'm definitely going to pursue it. Within the business, within the corporate world as well, because I've got a very big entrepreneurial side that I love, and that I'm still growing into. And I want to go explore that. And so this will this entire experience and everything that happened before in my life as well is serving as a trampoline, or as a boosting post into the next form of impact. And I don't want to give it a specific shape or size, because it's sometimes much bigger than what we think, right? And so waves of impact coming, and my heart is ready. This is an instrument that's going to be used just to go and impact, as far and as wide as I can.
Anesu, are you ready for that? Because I think I'm ready for that. You ready?
I'm ready for that. I'm ready for those waves of impact.
There we go. Boom, tidal waves.
Just wait, then you get your surfboard ready, gal.
Okay, Chappies.
You can do yoga on the board. That's what you can do while the waves are coming.
That's it. That's what I'll do. Yeah, I'll just be chilling on the wave. I'll just be riding the wave. You can do the work of the wave. I'll just ride it.
Oh, that was lovely. All right, final thoughts before we head out. Anything you want to leave the people with, the people that are online, your family, your friends, anything? Or anyone, I suppose. Anyone.
Yeah, I just want to leave all of the fans out there, who's felt it emotionally with things not going the way they wished it would, and by that I mean with me winning the season. I want to first of all thank them for being so invested in my journey and being invested in our season and every other player as well. And I want to tell them that even though they might not think I understand what they've gone through, I've got a pretty clear first-hand experience of what a blindside feels like. You know, I've experienced it numerous times, and the fact that they experience emotions because of the outcome tells me that the arrows of impact hit where it had to, which is the heart. You know, that was my mission going in. So I want to first of all thank the fans and the family members out there for really investing their love, effort, and time into the journey. I understand what they are feeling and that it's a bit of a disappointment, but I want to ask them to get on my boat of celebration because of everything that I've gained throughout the season. And I want them to trust the process and trust the fact that they're going to look back down the line and see exactly why this had to end like it did. You know, so that's just something I want to leave with the fans. You don't always have to win the title in the game to win the game. You don't always have to win the title or earn the title in life to win life. And if they can take that from my experience, and I would be so happy. And then the last thing is, I've got some unfinished business, so I'll be back.
Oh, are you? Did anyone? I mean, I don't think that was subtle. I mean, everyone picked up on that, right? Anesu, you picked.
Terminator with a Western accent, only Chappies.
Oh yeah. Come on, you gotta do that one more time, but do it properly now with a real accent there, Chappies. You can't just, it's Terminator with the Western accent. Do maybe a pistol.
So, all right. So to all my fans out there, I've got some unfinished business. I'll be back.
Nice. Love it. Anesu, what do you want to end off with there?
Yeah, I mean, I think just in keeping with today, you know, today is Heritage Day as well. And like, you know, just me being invited to share this moment with you chaps. I think another really remarkable part of our season has been the unexpected friendships that people developed on our season, whether you look at Tyson and Kieran or Nicole and Anela, Amy and Renee, me and Chappies and Santini. And I think that's a story that we need to hear more often as South Africans. You know, it's been a tough time. People are struggling in different ways. And I think to be able to see how a struggle can unite people and across backgrounds, you know, across cultures, across backgrounds, I think is something really inspiring. And it's something I didn't think I was going to witness on the show. You know, sometimes you close yourself off to people who you put into boxes. So I think I just hope it inspired people to rethink where South Africa's going, and it just inspired people to be a bit more positive, and to recognize, like Chappies is saying, that sometimes you can lose and sometimes things don't go your way, but they actually do go your way in the bigger picture. So I think it was such an epic season. It mirrors life in so many ways. It mirrors the pandemic in so many ways. You know, we got to hug and connect, and, you know, it was just so magical. And I hope that for the people who were watching at home, that we got to channel some of that magic to them and just remind them that we'll get through this COVID thing one way or the other. And even if we don't, at least we have Survivor to binge on every Thursday. So.
I just want to add one or two sprinkles on that, because Anesu said something that's also very, very dear to me, and that is, I really believe that adversity is like a doorway to the better version of ourselves. So we should really embrace adversity. We should find joy within that adversity. Doesn't matter what it is, even if it's COVID, you know, even if it is you losing your job at this moment. Embrace it and trust the process, that within time you're going to look back and you're going to be so grateful.
Yeah. I mean, just to add my 2 cents again, I know this is a show about the two of you, but I just want to say, I tend to believe you are where you are because that's where you're meant to be. So just taking what the two of you have said and seeing the friendship that's blossomed here, I mean, it's also testament to how you see the world and how you obviously come together. But despite the fact that you have similarities, you've also got huge differences. And that's been the incredible thing that I've picked up on this. And I still one of the moments where I was taken aback was when I asked Anesu, I said, of all the people on this season, who was the one you connected with most? When she said Chappies, I took a step back and I had to think about this, and I started looking at everything, and I completely gave me a different lens. So thank you for that, Anesu, and it was lovely meeting you, Mr. I want to say Francois Chapman, but I mean it's Chappies. Francois, I want to say that, and then I just want to say a shout out to everyone who's been with TNO this whole season, everyone that is on live right now to be here. You guys are amazing. You make the show keep going. Just a little note on that: to date, just the season alone has got us over 10,000 views. And that's because of the people coming on, and that's because of you guys watching, commenting. So thank you so much for that. Yeah.
And also, then, Claudio, your design skills are epic. Like, yes, you've got the podcast host thing down. Yeah. We've heard that from everybody. Everybody knows. But I've absolutely loved that added aspect of seeing people's faces photoshopped into different. It's so cool. It's so epic. And your coverage of the season has been so dope. So thank you for what you do as well.
I want to add on that, Claudio. You also have the ability to look at the games we've played at on an objective point of view, So a lot of the times I would listen to you guys and I would hear people getting emotional of some of the things that happened, but you would look at the gameplay, you would look at the holistic picture, and you come with amazing point of view. So much so that I would say very similar to Nico's point of view. So
now we need a Claudio. Now we need a Claudio. That's what we need.
Yeah,
we're going to see that now.
So thank you for that. Always taking the neutral stance and trying to look at it from an outside perspective and seeing the game instead of the flaws of the game. It's right. And then just in general, what you guys as podcasters mean to the Survivor community is incredible, because you serve as a gateway between ourselves and the fans out there. So thank you so much. Appreciate what you guys are doing. But on top of it all is your design skills, as Anesu mentioned.
Well, someone said something about a book coming out or something. So just hit me up when you need some designing of that book. Okay, anyone just pay attention to someone here in the panel is going to be writing a book sometime soon.
You will be on speed dial, sir.
Yes, I thank you. I thank you very much. And then to everyone who's on the line, yes, thank you. Oh, the competition. Yes, the buff. You see the beautiful buffs. You're not going to get awesome yellow buffs, but we do have the commemorative buff, and the winner will be announced on Monday. So if you haven't entered yet, all you got to do is like it, subscribe to YouTube, like us or follow us on Instagram or Twitter, and then just tell us who you think the Golden Spear deserves the Golden Spear for the. What am I even saying? It's been a long one. You guys are too charming. You're throwing me the Golden Spear for the season. That's it. And then the next TNO episode, look out for that as well. We'll it's going to be a bit of a break for us in the time. It's a bit of an off season, but we'll pick it up sometime. We'll let you know. And Anesu, Chappies, thank you so much. Have a fantastic evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy Heritage Day.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.